The research station hung silently in the vast darkness of space, a metallic sanctuary where humanity's most advanced scientists worked tirelessly. Yuna Kim stood near the observation window, her slender fingers pressed against the cool, transparent barrier, watching Earth's blue-green sphere rotating slowly below. She was not human, though her appearance could easily blend into a diverse research team. Her skin carried a subtle iridescent sheen, almost like mother of pearl, shifting between soft green and silver tones when light touched her. Years of genetic modification and professional training had prepared her for this moment. The first, comprehensive study of human reproductive methods from an extraterrestrial perspective. David Park approached her, his footsteps deliberate and professional. He carried a standard research tablet, its screen displaying complex biological charts and genetic sequences. "Dr. Kim," he said, his voice calm and measured, "are you ready for today's observations?" Yuna turned, her large almond-shaped eyes reflecting an intense curiosity. She had studied human communication protocols extensively, understanding that direct eye contact and a slight nod were considered respectful acknowledgments. "Absolutely," she responded, her voice smooth and without accent. The research facility was a marvel of modern science. Sterile white walls lined with advanced equipment, holographic displays flickering with real-time data, and researchers moving with purposeful precision. This was not just a medical station. It was a gateway to understanding the most fundamental process of life. David began explaining the day's research protocol. Unlike her own species, which used highly controlled genetic replication, humans seemed to approach reproduction as a complex, emotional and biological dance. Emotions, unpredictability, and personal choice played significant roles, concepts that seemed almost chaotic to her scientifically trained mind. "We'll be reviewing multiple research streams today," David explained, swiping through various holographic displays: reproductive health, genetic compatibility, emotional bonding during pregnancy and postnatal development. Yuna listened intently, her neural implants recording every word, every nuance of his explanation. Humans fascinated her, a species that survived through vulnerability, emotional connection, and an extraordinary capacity for adaptation. The first set of data streams began displaying. Genetic sequences, hormonal charts, and physiological responses populated the screens. To an untrained eye, it might look like complex mathematical equations, but to Yuna, it was poetry, the intricate language of life itself. "Fascinating," she murmured, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface, zooming and analyzing specific genetic markers. Humans had remarkable genetic diversity, with complex mechanisms that allowed for both variation and preservation of species characteristics. David watched her, a hint of professional admiration in his eyes. Most researchers would be overwhelmed by the complexity, but Yuna processed information with remarkable speed and precision. Her alien perspective offered insights that human scientists might overlook. A sudden alarm triggered on one of the secondary screens. A research team in the adjacent laboratory had discovered an interesting genetic mutation during their reproductive health studies. Yuna's attention immediately shifted, her analytical mind already formulating potential hypotheses. "Interesting," she said, her voice betraying a mix of scientific excitement and professional restraint. "The genetic variation suggests an adaptive response to environmental stressors." David nodded, impressed by her quick analysis. "Exactly why we invited you to this research program. Your perspective is unique." The day continued with a series of detailed observations, biological analyses, and complex discussions. For Yuna, this was more than a research assignment. This was an opportunity to understand a species that defied traditional scientific classification, a species that reproduced not just through biological mechanisms, but through complex emotional and social networks. As the artificial lights of the research station gradually dimmed, signaling the end of the work cycle, Yuna knew this was just the beginning of her journey. Human reproduction was not just a biological process. It was an intricate, beautiful dance of life itself. Her first day of research had only scratched the surface of a profound, mysterious world waiting to be understood. The research facility hummed with quiet energy, its sterile corridors alive, with the soft sounds of scientific exploration. Yuna sat in the communal area, her lunch tray untouched, watching human researchers interact during their midday break. Humans fascinated her. Their communication went far beyond simple verbal exchanges. Subtle touches, facial expressions, and unspoken emotional currents seemed to flow between them. David Park approached, carrying 2 cups of coffee, one for himself, one for her. "You're observing again," he said with a slight smile. It wasn't a question, but a statement of fact. Yuna's eyes tracked the movements of a young couple nearby. They weren't just sitting together. They were connected in ways her scientific mind struggled to comprehend. The woman's hand rested on the man's arm, a simple touch that seemed to communicate volumes. "Reproduction for humans is more than a biological process," David explained, sensing her curiosity. "It's about connection, about creating something together that's greater than 2 individual beings." A group of researchers laughed nearby, and Yuna noticed how their bodies moved, how their eyes connected, how complex social bonds seemed to weave between them. It was like watching an intricate dance she was only beginning to understand. An older researcher, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, joined them. She was in her late 50s, with kind eyes and hands that showed years of scientific work. "Reproduction is about hope," she said suddenly, as if reading Yuna's unspoken thoughts. Yuna tilted her head, a gesture she had learned was a sign of genuine interest in human communication. "Hope?" she asked. Elena's eyes softened. "Every child is a possibility, a chance to continue to grow, to become something new. It's not just about continuing the species, it's about potential." The concept was foreign to Yuna's species, where reproduction was a carefully calculated genetic process. Humans seemed to approach it with a mix of scientific precision and emotional complexity that defied traditional scientific understanding. Throughout the afternoon, Yuna observed more. A pregnant researcher discussed her upcoming maternity leave. 2 scientists talked about their children's achievements. Another shared concerns about fertility treatments. Each conversation revealed layers of emotional depth that went far beyond simple biological propagation. During a research review, David showed her something extraordinary. Human reproductive technologies had advanced to address complex genetic challenges. They could screen for potential health risks, support individuals with fertility issues, and create possibilities for those who might not have been able to reproduce traditionally. "We're not just creating life," David explained. "We're creating opportunities, giving people choices." Yuna's neural implants worked over time, processing these complex social and emotional dynamics. Her species viewed reproduction as a purely functional process. Humans saw it as a journey, a personal choice, an emotional adventure. As the day progressed, she began to understand something profound. Reproduction for humans wasn't just about creating new life. It was about creating connections, about hope, about continuing a complex narrative of human experience. The research facility's evening lights began to dim, casting soft shadows across the laboratory. Yuna realized her understanding of life was fundamentally changing. What she had considered a simple biological process was actually a complex, beautiful system of human connection. "Would you like to see something?" David asked, interrupting her thoughts. He showed her a wall of photographs, images of researchers' families, children, multi-generational pictures that told stories of human continuity. Each image was a testament to something more than genetic transfer. They were stories of love, of choice, of human resilience. Yuna felt something she couldn't quite explain, an emotional response that went beyond her scientific training. For the first time, reproduction wasn't just a research topic, it was a profound, beautiful human experience. As night fell over the research station, suspended in the infinite darkness of space, Yuna Kim understood that some mysteries couldn't be explained by data alone. Some experiences required something more, something wonderfully, impossibly human. The research station's night cycle brought a different kind of energy. Soft, ambient lights created shadows that seemed to dance across the laboratory walls. Yuna sat alone, surrounded by holographic displays and genetic charts, her mind wrestling with concepts that challenged everything she knew about life and reproduction. Dr. Elena Rodriguez entered quietly, carrying 2 steaming mugs. "Tea," she said simply, placing one near Yuna. Sometimes science needs a moment of pause. Yuna's fingers hovered over the complex data streams. Human reproductive systems were more than biological mechanisms. They were stories of connection, of hope, of incredible complexity. Each genetic sequence told a tale that went beyond simple genetic transfer. "In my culture," Yuna began, her voice soft, "reproduction is a calculated process. We select genetic markers, eliminate potential health risks, create perfect genetic combinations." She paused, watching the tea's steam rise. "But humans? You choose imperfection." Elena smiled, a knowing look that spoke volumes. "Imperfection is what makes us human," she said. "Our flaws, our unexpected combinations, our ability to love despite challenges, that's our strength." The conversation shifted, revealing layers of human complexity. Elena shared stories of her own children, of patients she had helped, of the incredible journeys people undertook to create life. Each story was a testament to human resilience. A holographic display flickered, showing genetic variations. Some would be considered defects in Yuna's culture, but humans saw them differently. They saw potential, adaptability, unique paths of existence. David Park entered, bringing additional research materials. His movements were different now, less formal, more comfortable around Yuna. "We're not just creating life," he said, overhearing part of their conversation. "We're creating possibilities." Yuna's neural implants worked overtime, processing these emotional and scientific revelations. Human reproduction wasn't just about creating new individuals, it was about creating connections, continuing complex narratives of human experience. Night progressed. Stories flowed about adoption, about medical challenges, about the incredible ways humans chose to create families. Each narrative challenged Yuna's scientific understanding. An old photograph caught her attention, a family with members of different skin tones, different ages, clearly not connected by traditional genetic lines. "Chosen families," Elena explained. "Sometimes love creates connections stronger than biology." Yuna felt something shift inside her. It wasn't just an intellectual understanding. Something deeper was happening, an emotional awakening that defied her scientific training. The research station continued its silent orbit, a metallic bubble of human potential suspended in the vast darkness of space. Outside, Earth rotated, slowly, a blue-green marble of infinite possibilities. "Reproduction is more than creating new life," Yuna said softly, more to herself than to her colleagues. "It's about creating hope." David looked up, surprised by the depth of her statement. Elena simply nodded, understanding that Yuna was experiencing something profound, a transformation that went beyond scientific observation. Genetic charts continued to dance across holographic displays, but now they looked different to Yuna. They weren't just cold, calculated sequences. They were stories waiting to be told, possibilities waiting to unfold. As the night cycle deepened, Yuna realized her research had become something more than a scientific study. It was a journey of understanding, about humans, about life, about the incredible complexity of connection. Her neural implants recorded everything, but for the first time, they couldn't capture the most important data, the emotional understanding. That was developing, something that existed beyond scientific measurement. The research station continued its silent journey, carrying within it a researcher whose understanding of life was fundamentally changing. Yuna Kim was no longer just an observer. She was becoming a witness to the beautiful, complicated, incredibly human process of creating life. Outside, stars continued their ancient dance, silent witnesses to the incredible stories of connection that humans continued to create. The final day of Yuna's research arrived with a quiet intensity. Months of study had transformed her understanding of human reproduction from a clinical investigation to a profound exploration of life itself. The Research Council waited eagerly for her comprehensive report. Her findings would challenge everything they knew about interspecies reproductive understanding. Yuna stood before the holographic display, her hands steady, her mind clear. "Humans are not just a species," she began, her voice calm and deliberate. "They are a complex system of emotional and biological potential." Her presentation revealed layers of understanding that went far beyond genetic sequences. She spoke of human resilience, of the incredible ways people created families, of the emotional depth that drove their reproductive choices. David Park watched from the side, a subtle pride in his eyes. He had witnessed her transformation, from a detached scientific observer to someone who truly understood the human experience. The Research Council listened intently. Her findings were revolutionary. Humans weren't just creating new life. They were creating possibilities, hope, and connections that transcended traditional biological understanding. Images flashed across the screen. Families of every configuration, stories of medical miracles, examples of human adaptability. Each slide told a story of incredible human potential. "Reproduction is not a process," Yuna explained. "It is a journey. It is hope. It is the most profound expression of human connection." Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in the back of the room, her eyes glistening. She recognized something special in Yuna's presentation, a true understanding that came from more than just scientific observation. The presentation continued. Yuna shared insights about human emotional bonds, about the way love and choice played crucial roles in creating life. She explained how humans saw reproduction as more than a biological necessity. It was a deeply personal, deeply meaningful experience. Genetic charts transformed into stories. Statistical data became human experiences. Cold scientific language melted into something more profound, a celebration of human potential. "In my culture," Yuna said, her voice soft but strong, "we create life through calculation. Humans create life through love, through choice, through incredible resilience." Room fell silent. Even the most senior researchers recognized they were witnessing something extraordinary, a completely new perspective on human reproduction. As the presentation concluded, questions poured in. But Yuna's most significant transformation wasn't in her scientific findings. It was in her own understanding of life, of connection, of what it meant to be truly alive. David approached her after the presentation. "You've changed," he said simply. Yuna smiled, a genuinely human expression she had learned during her research. "I've learned," she corrected him. The research station continued its silent journey through space, carrying within it a researcher who had discovered something far more valuable than scientific data. She had discovered the true meaning of life, connection, hope, possibility. Outside, Earth rotated slowly, a blue-green marble of infinite potential. Inside the station, Yuna Kim stood as a bridge between two different ways of understanding existence. Her report would be sent to her home planet, challenging everything they knew about reproduction, about life, about the incredible potential of conscious beings. The universe seemed larger now, more mysterious, filled with possibilities that no single species could fully understand. As artificial lights dimmed, signaling the end of another research cycle, Yuna looked out at the stars. She was no longer just an observer. She was a witness to the incredible, beautiful complexity of life itself. Her neural implants had captured millions of data points. But the most important discovery couldn't be measured by any scientific instrument. It was the understanding that life was not about perfection, but about potential. Not about calculation, but about connection. The research station continued its silent orbit, carrying within it a story of transformation, of understanding, of the incredible journey of discovery. that defines both scientific exploration and the human experience.